There's something interesting that I discovered that took me about 21 years to figure out. 21 years, I was an option trader for 21 years. I didn't realize something I knew unconsciously, but only became conscious of it one day as I was looking at this. Unpredictability is a problem of course, in the real world, unlike the textbooks. I guess you've seen this before. You recognize this item? This is commonly known as what? A wheel. Very good. When was it discovered? Sorry, a long time ago. How long ago? About at least 6,000 years ago, all right? Babylonian technology, all right? So this is technology. So let's see, moving from this technology to this technology. You guys are too young to remember the days when it had to carry our luggage because it didn't have a wheel. How long did it take? 6,000 years to this discovery, right? Okay? So you realize that there is unpredictability. Not only that, but now we're going to look at something else, that there are domains that are entirely dominated by the unpredictable. Medical discovery, for example. Entirely dominated by the rare event. They don't know it. And we're going to talk now about luck with a caveat. It's not really luck. It's a function of luck. How to exploit luck by which you get more upside than downside of luck. So, and the idea is, you know what this is, windmill. There are two approaches in life. The first one is that you hear that there are going to be winds, and you know, the conservative attitude is to build what? A wall to protect oneself from the wind. A better attitude is to build windmills if you hear the word. Okay, so the idea is to milk uncertainty and try to exploit disorder. But before getting there, we're going to have a little excursion into what I call fragility. There's something interesting that I discovered that took me about 21 years to figure out. 21 years, I was an option trader for 21 years. I didn't realize something I knew unconsciously, but only became conscious of it one day as I was looking at this, you know, patently ugly teacup, all right? We have a definition of fragility, very simply, connected to what we saw about options. And let me propose the following. Is fragile what doesn't like volatility? If this teacup is on a table and there's an earthquake, will it benefit from it? No, you see? Very simple. It wants fragile because it wants calm and predictability. It's harmed by disorder. You guys have earthquakes in California. It doesn't want an earthquake. It doesn't want to be in California. It'd rather be in New York, you see? Very simply. And now from this concept of fragility, we're going to get into innovation and optionality. So this, the way I see it, is short optionality. And let's look at what short optionality is. This is a payoff of a financial structure that is very vulnerable to phone calls at night. When in the middle of the night, the chairman of the company gets a phone call saying, oh, there's an event. So this payoff, this package, you know, you make or lose some money, but typically the losses, all right, are very large and the profits are very small. Exactly like the coffee cup, except the coffee cup has no variation except for the loss. The coffee cup will never improve. Let's see if you can connect this. This package is robust, and this package has an opposite payoff where all the gains are large. The kind of thing that only people in California seem to understand. People in New York, they don't get it. Because people in New York have this payoff, and let me explain. The banks are in a business of hiding risks. So they make small. They have no volatility, you know, most of the time. And once every 10 or so years, guess what? They lose everything they made, and then they come to the taxpayer for support. They have the setup for people to, give them monetary policy to help them and all that stuff. And meanwhile, they keep their bonuses because it's a very efficient strategy where you make, everybody think you're smart. And then when you lose, guess what? It was a bad environment, okay? It was only a quarter when you lost, but visibly you've lost more than you ever made. Banks lost in 2008 more than history of banking, all right? And of course, they paid themselves a lot of money, they didn't return it to us. So this is a payoff that's very similar to a short an option. You sell an option, you have very little return, you earn some money, but then something happens, you have unlimited losses or very large losses. That payoff resembles the fragile. The opposite of that payoff would be something that's long volatility. So when I went, to try to explain this, people weren't understanding that the opposite of fragile isn't robust. It's not solid. It is not the opposite of fragile. The opposite of this is not the straight line. It's not a payoff, where you end up unharmed. You agree? If I'm sending a package to, say, Mongolia interior, all right, and the package is fragile, what do I write on it? Fragile, all right, okay. If the package is robust, what do you write on it? Nothing. So if the package wants volatility, wants to be harmed, wants something, wants stressors, wants disorder, wants earthquakes, all right, it's not the same as robust. It would be something on which you'd write, please mishandle, I am anti-fragile. It's the opposite of fragile. So the opposite of fragile is not something that is robust or something solid. It's something that wants disorder. And guess what? There's something called the cluster. And if you like one, you like them all. Uncertainty, variability, imperfect, incomplete knowledge, trance, chaos. These, if you benefit from all of these, you are classified as anti-fragile, and it's very similar to someone who owns an option. So we're going to talk about, how you guys can milk randomness, because that's what you do in California, all right? And we're going to be a little more technical and a little more rigorous in the way we analyze an option payoff. So there are things now, let's view the world in three categories. There's the fragile, like this computer. You pour water on it, it's gone, all right? You understand? And now we have to give a lecture maneuvering with a mouse and maneuvering so it doesn't blow up, and hoping it doesn't blow up before the end of this lecture, all right? That's a fragile, okay? That's the definition. There's a robust. You hammer it, nothing happens, but doesn't benefit from it. And there's the anti-fragile that likes disorder and benefits from disorder and benefits from error. So it happened that now we can identify the fragile. There's a method to figure out what is fragile, and there's a method to figure out what is anti-fragile. How? Very simple. Something related to convexity. Let me explain what I mean by convexity or concavity, okay? If I jump, I am fragile, my body is fragile, okay? If I jump 10 meters, what would happen to me? You guys are engineers and smart people, you would know. What would happen to me? Sorry? I die. I mean, say it. This is, you die. I mean, your hospital here won't be any good, right? You die when you fall 10 meters. But if I fall 10 times 1 meter, what would happen to me? Nothing. It means that every additional meter harms me more than the previous one. No? Everything fragile, we saw it in time series space. But if you look at it as a response, everything fragile has to have accelerating harm at some point. And we can actually show that everything that has accelerating harm doesn't like volatility. And the opposite of it is something that has accelerating benefits. The nonlinear is harm more. You see this accelerating harm is harm a lot more than the linear. And visibly, the linear, for small variation, show more response than the nonlinear. This is easier to understand if you look at it this way. You saw that the harm I get from hitting the floor, okay, it has to be nonlinear for me to be harmed at 10 meters, but not to be harmed at 10 times 1 meter. You agree? Okay. It has to be that way because walking, on campus would kill you otherwise. Because being harmed by that large, but you get the, if the thing were linear, you'd be killed. So harm for anything that has not been broken has to be in a nonlinear. The coffee cup sees thousands of hits, very small intensity, like very small pounds per inch hits. It doesn't really care. But one big hit and it breaks. So things that are fragile have to be nonlinear. And this is what's central about this idea. You have to be accelerating in harm. Another example is, look at the world around us, okay? If we were linear to harm, we've blown up a long time ago. The world has 3 to 4 million earthquakes every year, low intensity on a Geiger scale, you see? It would be like a Fukushima every few minutes if the harm were linear, but it's not, you see? Yeah. So this is quite central because now we can figure out whether it's fragile from nonlinear and look at its opposite. Simply, we have the following. If you have more gain, say if the market goes up 10%, you make more money than if the market went down 10%, then you lose if the market went down 10%, you're convex, you see? And otherwise you're concave. The best way to figure it out is with this. This is convex, this is concave. If you want to remember, this is convex. And this is concave. Okay? So if you look at the payoff of the convex, you make more than you lose. You're here, you make more than you lose here for an equivalent one. Or you make more the second time than you make the first time. If the market goes up 20%, you make more than twice if the market went up 10%. If you are in that situation, then you like volatility. If you're in that situation, then you are like benefiting from randomness, what I call the disorder brothers.